Welcome to Becoming Laron Anthony. I am your host, Laron Anthony, and this is my life. Disclaimer: Becoming Laron Anthony is a podcast to help others through his shared experiences. This is not an attack for those who share similar experiences through these episode topics. Parental advisory is strongly suggested. Hey, on tonight's episode, we'll be talking about how I became Laron Anthony. Now, it's been a long journey to be able to fully embrace myself and to be confident in my own skin. It's been a lot of ups and downs, the good, the bad, and the ugly. But through it all, I was able to come out of it. At first, I didn't want to be called Laron anymore. The reason why is because when I was younger, I got molested. Being molested was very traumatic for me. It caused me not to identify with myself anymore. To be honest, I felt lost. I felt scared. I felt confused. I felt like I just didn't know myself. I felt like that part of me died and I just didn't know who I was. So I wanted to recreate myself because I thought that if I do that I'll be able to control my life, that I'd be able to find my own will, to find my own identity, to find my own strength. I didn't want to be called Laron anymore because I felt like that person wasn't me anymore. I just didn't want to be Laron anymore because I felt like if I was to reclaim Laron, I felt like that means that I would have gave in. The person who molested me, I felt like I would have gave them the power. To be honest, I feel like they took that power away from me. I feel like they took that choice away from me that I didn't know that I had. They completely destroyed me. And because of it, I just didn't want to be called Laron anymore. I felt like that wasn't me anymore. So I wanted to be called Anthony. Anthony is my middle name. And sometimes I prefer being called Anthony than I like being called Laron. I mean, it took me some time to actually reclaim Laron again. But I felt like there was so many baggage, so many weight to Laron that I just didn't want that anymore. I didn't want someone else's burdens to become my problem anymore. I didn't want their burdens to become mine because I felt like if I would reclaim Laron, I felt like I would allow them to win, and I didn't want them to win because I didn't want to give up on myself. I didn't want to give up on, of being the person that got molested. I didn't want that title. I didn't want to be associated with being a victim of molestation. But I realized that I'm a survivor. I'm a conqueror. I'm a victor. I'm a winner. And I'm continuously winning because I feel like if I would have laid down and just gave in, I feel like I would have been on a different path. A path that would have led me to only darkness. And I didn't want to go down a path of darkness. I wanted to see the light. I know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel because I'm living proof of it. But at the time, I couldn't get up. I couldn't go on without my life. But luckily, I found therapy. And I know certain people will agree, and I know certain people wouldn't, but therapy is the best medicine. But truly, God is the best medicine. And I thank God that God allowed me to use that resource of using therapy, because therapy truly saved my life. Just as much God have saved my life. And because of me going to therapy, I put in the work. I did. I had to, because I want to survive. Because it turned out that I am a survivor. I'm going to continue to survive. Because that's just who I am. That's just in me. And to be honest, while I was going through that, I didn't know my own strength. I didn't know that I can come out of it. I know some people who go through that, sometimes they suffer in silence. And I know I was one of them. But sometimes they go down a darker path and they do destructive things. And they create these horrendous patterns and continue to go on this cycle that will only become self-destructive to them. And I didn't want to be like that. I didn't want to be that person. Sometimes it was hard to look at myself in the mirror because sometimes I would see the person that molested me. But now when I look in the mirror, I see myself. Of course, I am a work in progress. And I know I'm not perfect, and I'm not striving to be perfect. I'm just striving to be myself, to be real. And I feel like to me that's real is the person that on this journey of healing, of recovery, of being free. And that's why I wanted to create this podcast, because I'm hoping that someone who been through similar situations that I've been through, that they will take the time out to listen and to see themselves and to know that they're not alone and that it's okay not to be okay and that they shouldn't have to suffer in silence anymore. Because when you suffer in silence, you're giving the person who did that to you the power, and it's not their power to have. And you should never give them your power, because there's power, there's so much strength in you, more than you can ever imagine. And it took me some time to realize that. But now that I'm getting to know myself and know my strength, I see so much good in myself, even when I have shitty days and shitty moments. But I know that I'm fine. I'm no longer suffering. I'm no longer going to suffer in silence. I want to speak up and inspire other people to do the same, to tell their truth, to not to be ashamed of what happened to them, to not to feel like it's their burden to carry. Because I know sometimes, I know for me, I used to be, and still at most times, sometimes I become a burden carrier and not allow myself to just be a soul, a soul that's searching for belonging, for purpose, for a calling, for identity. But I know that comes from God, because He's the only one that knows me. And with His love, I'm able to love myself. But I think that people need to know that it's okay not to be okay. And it's okay to reach out for help. And that's what I did. And surround themselves with a community, with people that's going to love them and support them in no matter what. Sometimes they don't always have to say something. They can just always be there. Just being a comforter. But to also know that what happened to you, it doesn't have to be your identity. Because I know when it happened to me, I allowed that to become my identity. And a very good friend of mine, my best friend, reminded me that I don't have to be a victim of what happened to me. That doesn't have to be my identity. That doesn't have to be something that I have to associate myself with. Just because it happened to me, that doesn't mean that it gets to define who I am. It doesn't. And my life is not going to stop just because it happened to me. I'm going to continue to evolve and grow and walk in whatever God has in store for me. Because I know this is not the end for me. And I refuse to allow this to be the end of me. But I think it is important to know that for people that are struggling with that they shouldn't have to be scared or allow that to become who they are. Because I know for a while, I remember associating myself with that, being a victim, or being a victim of sexual abuse or molestation. And I have allowed that to become my identity. Like every time when someone speaks to me, I would always mention that. It's not just because, it's okay to talk about it. It is. But sometimes I think that sometimes we forget that when we share this traumatic experience, sometimes it can become all that we are. And not forgetting that there's so much more to us. And I think that for a while I was living like that. But I'm not going to live like that anymore. I'm at the point in my life where I want to be vocal and adamant about who I am. But really, I just want to help people. Because I know if I can be free and receive freedom, then so can they. I just want people to know that the reason why I created this podcast is to help people, to be an advocate. I've always wanted to be an advocate for social change, for social justice, especially like this, because I know I'm not the only one. A lot of men have spoken up and told their truth. And sometimes people will make a mock of it. But that's because they're not getting enough education. They're not being informed about this. Because unfortunately, in the world that we live in the society that we live in, is so gender conformative. Everything has to be labeled or viewed as being labeled to certain gender roles. And not everything has to be like that. I feel like we as society as a whole, even throughout this world, that we need to accept the fact that everything is universal, that it can happen to men and women, because it can. It's unfortunate and it's disheartening, but it's true. It can happen to both men and women, because you never really know. You never know until the person finally speaks up and tell their truth. I know there could have been times for me to speak up and tell my truth. I know some may be thinking, well, why now? Why not now? I want to do it at my own time. And I am allowed that. Why not now? Why not? No one ever said that there's always going to be a perfect time to announce something like this or to speak up for something like this, especially traumatic. Something that's very traumatic like this. And I think it's important to do it at your own will, at your own pace, at your own time. Because at the end of the day, what's right for you will be right for you. And I think it's important to do it when you're good and ready, and that you shouldn't feel pressure. Because I know when I was going through this, I know it took me some time to actually tell someone this, just because, I was afraid of telling them this because of how I didn't want to be perceived as. Most importantly, I just couldn't accept the fact that it happened to me. And because I didn't want nobody to look at me differently, I just didn't want people to look at me differently. And I didn't want them to actually ask me who was it. Because I felt like their name is not worth mentioning. Because for me, I'm at the point in my life that this person doesn't have the power over me anymore. And I'm not giving them the power. So needless to say, their name's not worth mentioning. But honestly, while I was going through their time of trying to find the words to say, especially mention it to someone, I had to pray. I had to pray to God and ask God to give me the strength to actually tell whomever I wanted to tell them this. And it took some time, you know. That's what they always say, trust is earned. But I end up telling the people that I love. But again, I had to pray about it. I had to seek God. And I remember reading the Bible and just praying and just asking God to give me the strength that I need to be able to tell them. And then when I finally did, it came out better than I ever thought it was going to be. I don't know why, but I thought that it was just going to be different. Like the situation of the outcome was going to be different. But it wasn't. It was everything that I needed. It was. It was everything that I needed. Sometimes it would be nice to, for people that have gone through this. I don't know about other people. I know for me particularly, sometimes you do want to hear the right words, and sometimes you want people to actually say something. But sometimes it's best for them to actually just be there, because sometimes you don't want the other person to actually, say something, especially going through this traumatic experience that I went through. Sometimes it's best just being there. You don't have to say nothing. I mean, of course, it's important to listen, but just being there, I think that's what makes it more needed. Especially like someone like me that went through that. And because of it, I felt good. I felt like I didn't have to live in secret anymore. And that's the thing, I hate secrets. I hate living like that. I hated living like that. Not being able to tell anyone. Keeping it bottled up inside. Not trying to find the words to actually speak up and say. And that's the reason why I used to be so quiet, especially as a kid, throughout my life, even going into grammar school and high school. That's the reason why I was quiet. Because I've always been the type of person that been very speechless, because I was suffering in silence, and because I couldn't find the right words to actually say anything. But most importantly, I couldn't speak up. And I think that is important to always speak up, especially for things that can maybe bother you or affect you or hurt you, or even things that doesn't hurt you. I think it's important to speak up, and I think it's important to use your voice, because your voice is powerful. And because it's your voice, no one can take that away from you. And it took me a while to actually get to that place that no one can take away my voice. No one. Because it's mine. It's rightfully mine. God designed and ordained this voice that He has given me. And I have to use it to the extent of who I am, of who He called me to be. And I think it's important to remember that our voice is powerful. Who we are powerful. But that our story doesn't end. There's always good that comes out of it. That's why they say there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Even when you're going through the storms, you always seem to come out of it. And I've been through a lot of storms because of what happened to me. Not feeling comfortable in my own skin, even within my own body. I hated my body. I did. I hated it because of what happened to me. I felt disgusted. I felt angry. I felt resentful against my body, against myself, because I felt like it wasn't just my body. I felt disgraced by it. I did. I didn't feel comfortable in my body. I just didn't, because I felt like it wasn't my body anymore. And that caused me to go through a very degrading place. I kept self-sabotaging myself. I had very low self-esteem. I was very insecure of myself. Always just, what's the word I'm looking for? I've always criticized myself. And even going through school like that, that made it a lot worse. Because in school, I used to get bullied a lot because of people, assuming that I was gay. People always labeled me, boxed me up. And to be honest, that's kind of what it felt like being molested. I felt, like once it was done, I felt like a bird that was locked in a cage, not being able to do anything, just being stuck, having nowhere else to go, to be able to be free and to fly. But yeah, people constantly make fun of me, make fun of the way that I talk, the way that I speak, the way that I dress, the way that I walk. People always gave me a hard time because of what they thought of who I was. And that definitely didn't help with my mental health because of all that trauma that was being built up. And to be honest with you guys, I contemplate suicide. I was very tempted to kill myself. I remember too, I was 13. I locked myself in the bathroom. I pulled up the window and I was ready to jump just because I felt like my life was over. I felt like there wasn't no life left in me to live. I didn't have the courage to live because I thought everything that was in me was just dead. And because I couldn't take enough of the bullying. People have to realize that their words hurt. And their words definitely hurted me. It did. And on top of it, I had to live with that trauma all throughout my life. But I finally was able to kind of let go of it once I got into college, because I made it my mission to go to counseling. That was my first main priority. Of course, my studies and my education, getting my degree. But that was also one of my main priorities, was going to therapy, because I knew that I needed help. I knew that I didn't want to suffer in silence anymore. And I just wanted to get some professional help. And people have to realize that just because you get professional help, that doesn't mean that you're crazy. Because I know that, especially in the Black community, especially, being brought up as an African American man, that, we're taught to be strong. We're taught to not to show emotions. Because if we show emotions, that make us less of a man, that make us weak. But that doesn't. It just makes us human. And I think that what I was trying to do, I was trying to figure out who I am as a human being. Because I just couldn't keep going through the shit that I was going through. I got tired of it. I got tired of living like that. I got tired of the facade. I got tired of putting on masks every time, which is called the imposter syndrome. I kept putting on masks just to cover up my true self. Just to cover up what I'm actually feeling. And I just got tired of it. I got tired of masking my pain. and I wanted help. I don't have to be Superman all the time. I don't have to be Man of Steel. I don't want to be Man of Steel. I just rather be the human being. I want to be human. I am human. I just wanted to be more transparent with myself. I want transparency. I want authenticity. I wanted to be able to speak up and to be heard and to be seen and to be valued. Because I think that, of course, those are my main values, but I know that I wanted someone to fully see me. That's what I was looking for to be fully seen, to be fully heard, to be fully valued. I just wanted to be seen. I wanted to be rescued. And going into therapy, I realized that I'm the one that rescued myself. Not saying that, God didn't rescue me. He did. But I was able to rescue myself too. I was. I'm not taking all the credit. I'm not. But I was able to rescue myself, meaning that I was able to do the work to be able to get to a place where I'm at now. Now, of course, it's a journey. I don't have all the answers. I'm still going on this process of healing. But I'm at the place in my life where I want to be vocal and adamant with who I am and accepting myself. Because I think that's the importance. That's very key, is to just be confident in myself and to be my own representation. I've always wanted to be represented. I always wanted to identify myself with someone. So I realized if I can't do that, if I can't, see that through whatever media outlet, then I could be able to do that myself. So I think that's important to do, to be your own representative. But also, I want to be real. I want to be a real model, meaning that I'm only striving to be real. I'm not striving to be perfect, because perfect is overrated. Perfectionism is overrated, and it's unattainable. None of us can ever reach perfection, even how much we try. But yeah, I wanted to be a real model instead of a role model, because I feel like we all need that. I know for me, I just wanted to be real. I want to be myself. And me being myself is being transparent and being vocal and adamant about the things that I care about, the things that I want to bring awareness to, such as mental health, toxic masculinity, bullying, suicide, all that other stuff, which I definitely will be talking about in this podcast. But before I do that, I wanted you guys to get to know me on a more intimate level, a level where you get to see me for me. And I don't care if you judge me or not judge me. I just want to be able to see myself fully for who I am, and to put out the work like this, the work I have yet to see in cinema. I know a lot of people have come forth and spoke up and told their truth, and have doing it, through all different types of media, whether that's in film, TV shows, movies, videos, whatever. I've seen that, but I guess I just want to be able to stir up a conversation, but not just stir up a conversation, just bring more awareness to the things that I'm passionate about, things I have always wanted to speak up about, and not needing no one else's permission to do it otherwise. I want to create my own narrative, meaning that I'm ready to shift the narrative and explore it more fully, explore it with the lenses more openly, more clearly. where it doesn't have to be, stereotypical. It doesn't have to be, taboo. I just want to be able to speak from a real place, from a raw place, and be able to share myself with you guys. Of course, I'm not going to share myself too much, but I just want to share enough just to, just to bring more awareness to things that needs to be addressed in our community, especially in the Black community. I think it's important to talk about things that have been swept underneath the rug, that has been labeled as taboo, and just things that have yet to be fully addressed. And I think it's important to do that. And I want to be able to use my platform to do that. Because, again, I'm all about change. I'm all about just continuing to try different things. And this podcast is very new for me. This is my first actually podcast, and doing it feels so surreal. But it also feels very rewarding, very fulfilling. I'm feeling a lot of gratitude. I'm feeling all different type of emotions all at once. But I'm grateful to be on this journey, and I'm grateful for you guys to come along with me on this journey. I wouldn't have this other way. But I'm super excited for what's in store with this podcast, and I hope you guys are too. And I hope you guys will continue to come along with me on this journey, and we all can get healing together. We all can, stir up the table. Well, not stir up the table, but just have conversations, even if they may be problematic. But I think that we all need to embrace the uncomfortable in order for us to get comfortable with speaking about things that we need to talk about, that we need to address. And I want to be able to use my platform to do that, especially in my own terms, in my own way, and doing things the way that I want to do it. That may work for me. I mean, it may work for you and it may not, but I hope that whatever you guys get out of this podcast, that you guys would take it in and, just really listen and hear me out. Whether you agree or not, it's okay to disagree. We all can agree to disagree, but as long as that everybody keep an open mind, and that everybody, again, be more empathetic and just hear what I have to say, even if you don't agree. Yeah. But yeah, I think that it's important to, control your own narrative, control your story. I mean, story is what makes us, but it doesn't get to define who we are. And just like, my story of me being a victim of molestation, my story is still going on. I'm still going on, and I'm still living. So just because it happened to me, that doesn't mean I get to be a product of it. I get to come out of it, which I have. And I'm still fighting. I'm still finding my way. Life is not the end of me. It's only just the beginning. And I think it's important to realize that, especially for people, again, who have gone through what I went through and maybe still is going through now and just don't have anyone that they can look up to. So I think it's important for me to create this type of work that people can be able to see themselves, because that's the type of filmmaker that I am, or aspire to be. I want to inspire change. I want to be an advocate, which I definitely want to work on in the near future. Having my own, just having my own platform where I could be able to be an advocate, a service, because that's something that I definitely see myself doing. I love being a service to people, meaning I love, being a representative, being an advocate, and just helping people in any shape or form that I can possibly be able to do. I'm there. And that's how I want to be able to do. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this podcast. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys, not next week, but that following week, which I will be posting about all the dates of when you can expect each episode, because I really want to do every other Thursday. For right now, just because I have a lot going on right now. But, this podcast is still my main priority, and so are other things. But I definitely want to continue doing this, and I'm going to continue to take you guys on this journey with me. But yeah, definitely will see you guys real soon on the next episode of Becoming Laron Anthony. Because in the next episode, we will be talking about becoming a Christian. So I'm really excited about that because I am a fellow Christian. I am Baptist, born and raised in the church. I'm all about that church life. So it's going to be very interesting for me to talk about my background, being born and raised in the church, having each and every one of my relatives, they all have a pastoral and evangelistic role in the church. Speaking of, we're also the founders of a church as well. My late grandfather founded a church on the west side of Chicago. So definitely we'll be talking about that and me being, kind of at the forefront, of being the first family and how was that for me, and, just explaining that experience and kind of adding a little bit more insight into that and kind of just, giving off my opinions on it. Again, we all can agree to disagree, alongside you just keep an open mind and just hear me out. That's all that I ask. But yes, I hope to see you guys soon and see you guys in the next episode. Bye, y'all.